Welcome to the art of flow. Beautiful flowing yoga practice is a way to experience the body opening organically. There's a balance between strengthening and stretching, and there is fluidity which invites whole body movement, which is very connective and integrating. People with these jobs where they get stuck in these positions all day are experiencing that energy gets stuck, and that their bodies get stuck, and that they kind of lock down, and they really need movement. Now, what is beautiful about yoga, and particularly about fluid flowing yoga, is that we can offer people healthy movement. This work is important because it is helping us to release contraction, and contraction is best released through movement, because we notice when we try to move, if we're having difficulty flowing from one pose to another, it may well be because we're blocking the flow of movement, because we're contracting, we're holding on, right? You see people doing Qigong and you see so much wisdom in the way they're moving their bodies. It's very slow, beautiful, harmonized movement. Well, now we can discover that this work in its own way exists inside of the yoga tradition. We're able to experience the awakening and harmonizing of the flow of energy through our bodies. There are several tools that are required in order to be able to master the art of flow. Sometimes it's a misunderstanding that you see students are trying to find fluidity in their yoga practice, but they haven't really embodied or understood that fluidity in yoga practice comes from embodying the flow of breath and the flow of energy, and learning to direct that energy into the yoga poses and into the transitions between the yoga poses. Moving into yoga poses, the energy that supports us to deepen the yoga poses and to flow between the yoga poses, that is prana. And in order to have access to prana and in order to give direction to prana, we've received some fabulous teachings that have come to us through the yoga tradition. During the Level 1 Vinyasa Yoga Teacher Training, I offer an introduction to this work. But here, we're going now into the work in much more detail, and I'm offering students and teachers tools to learn how to create a state of flow in every part of the yoga class. So we go into dynamic breath work in far more detail here. This is a wonderful tool for bringing flow to the yoga practice. We also go into dynamic hands-on assists, which is a really important thing to learn about how to offer hands-on assists in the flow, which is very different from giving hands-on assists to somebody who's standing for several breaths in a yoga pose. When we're wanting to dynamize yoga practice and include movement into yoga practice, then we once again need to ask ourselves, what is the logic behind this? Because if we don't have a very clear understanding of what the logic is, then we may start to sort of create our own movements and it all becomes a bit of a disco. So this is something that during the Art of Flow training, I try to be as clear about as I can, is to offer students a grounding and an understanding that supports them to embody the logic of energetic practice, which means the movements that we do support opening our bodies in the specific direction that we are moving towards as we're moving into certain poses. The movements that we do during the dynamic breath work are specific movements that focus on opening the different parts of our lungs in order to facilitate the deep, flowing, harmonizing breath, and in order to facilitate the circulation of energy in the 5 directions. So there is really a logic behind the work. These are the techniques of inner energy management. These are the techniques of the inner energetic practice. Once again, I'd like to say it is accessible. I teach absolute beginners and people of all ages. I'm offering during the training tools for bringing flow into each and every part of the class. The opening of the class, the awakening of the body, the climbing, what we call climbing, which is energizing the body during the salutations, sun salutations. The exploring part of the class, which is where we are moving through the poses that we are exploring, and then through the downward closing completion cycle of the class. These teachings about energetic practice do belong to the yoga tradition. Sri Krishnamacharya presented yoga in his own way, which is different perhaps from how I'm doing it, but nevertheless, the foundational principles of energetic practice were offered through Krishnamacharya's teachings in the 20th century. Many yoga schools went on to teach yoga in a very static way, to abandon the dynamic movements that Krishnamacharya instructed should be practiced as a way to enter yoga poses and to open to the flow of energy and to harmonize breath and movement. Heaviness is a product of gravity. Gravity is sucking us down, we feel heavy, we feel lethargic. People spend all day behind the computer, whatever. So to experience lightness, to experience the flow of energy, and to actually lift energy, which is hanging in the lower chakras, to lift that energy to the heart space, and even beyond the heart space to the higher chakras. And this is a very important part of the energetic breath. And this is one of the primary intentions of yoga, whether you're reading it in the texts that are written about Kundalini yoga or classical Hatha yoga, tantric yoga. It's always been an important part of yoga, and it's one of the great gifts. This is one of the great gifts that is offered to the world by yoga, is to learn through mastering the energetic practice and the inner practice to lift your energy and to conquer heaviness. To experience we are not only being sucked down by gravity, but that we are also floating up, that we are also light, that there is an energy that flows through our bodies and it flows in an upwards direction, which is like a fountain that is rising from within us. I'm really happy to receive these teachings as I have from my teachers. I've taken these teachings and I have now worked on how to transmit them, how to offer them, and I'm really, really enjoying very much to offer them.